Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with an update video today, feedback video as well. Go through some of the comments on yesterday's video, check out some of the reactions there. As usual, there were lots of comments, so thank you very much for your participation. On the couch again, as you can see, in the warmth of my studio here, a little bit cold outside. That is why I have decided to film the video inside, and you can have this nice view of Peniche up here, and boy, I'm missing the coast at the moment. So what's happening around the country? As we know, all of the talk is about the Christmas season. Today, of course, the last day of November, December starting tomorrow, and we'll begin the countdown to Christmas. And it's going to be a very, very interesting Christmas in Spain this year. Now, some good news for people living in Granada, as some of the restrictions in that part of Spain are being lifted. The government down there in Andalusia announced yesterday that bars and restaurants and other types of small business that have been closed for quite a while now are allowed to open again, given the improvement in the health situation. So good news for people down there in Granada as the restrictions now come into line with the rest of Andalusia. And the general health situation around the country seems to be improving, but some places around the country still find themselves in a delicate situation, and the month of December is going to be a real challenge in order to keep the virus under control around Spain. The title of yesterday's video was that health workers are outraged at some of the images that are circulating around the country at the moment. Very crowded streets in some of the city centres around Spain, as a lot of cities have turned on their Christmas lights, and this of course has coincided with Black Friday and other sales. I think today is Cyber Monday, so there's lots of sales going on around the country at the moment, and a lot of people did what they would normally do at this time of the year, which is go into the city centre, check out the lights, and do their Christmas shopping. The health department today has come out and called for people to use common sense, to be cautious, recommending that it's probably better to stay at home this year. But as we know, people are people and old habits die hard. So I don't know whether this was a year to turn those Christmas lights on or not. Maybe Town Hall should leave the lights off this year, or at least not promote them, because it's clear that we need to avoid another uptick in cases, or as these health professionals and experts are warning, to avoid that third wave of the coronavirus, which will be the final nail in the coffin for a lot of businesses if they're forced to close down with more restrictions come January. Now, there's been quite a few comments in recent times about the city of Valencia. We all saw the other day that Valencia has been named the #1 city for expats in the world. Lots of people keen to experience Mediterranean living, and we saw that other cities in Spain were also in the top 10. Two more cities down there on the Mediterranean coast, Alicante and Malaga, and of course Madrid in the center of the country. Barcelona wasn't in the top 10 this year. It was last year, but this year apparently it has slipped to position 25. Don't know what the reasons for that are. I'll be doing a more detailed video on this survey in coming weeks, so stay tuned for that. But I'd love to know what your opinion is as to why Barcelona has slipped from position number 7 to position number 25 in the space of a year. What's going on there? And the city of Lisbon in Portugal was also in the top 10, so that's 5 cities on the Iberian Peninsula that were in the top 10 cities in that list of best cities in the world to live for expats. However, it wasn't all good news for Valencia and the other Spanish cities with some of the results in the survey. The cities here in Spain did very well when it came to leisure and climate, health and environment, but they failed dismally when it came to work and career prospects, and also when it came to safety and politics, so no surprises there. In fact, Valencia, I think, was #1 when it came to leisure and climate, but number 62 when it came to work and career prospects. So that gives you an idea just how bad things can be when it comes to working in this country. Spain can be paradise if you're retired or a digital nomad, but it can be a nightmare if you're a job seeker. And don't get me started on the topic of politics. And the topic of safety is an interesting one. I've always found Spain to be a fairly safe country, fairly safe cities. I've never really had a problem in Madrid and other cities that I've travelled to around the country. But I think Valencia came in at position number 34 when it comes to safety. I don't know whether this is because of street crime, whether street crime is a problem in Valencia, whether it's been getting worse over the last few years or not. I know that street crime can be a problem in cities like Madrid or Barcelona, especially in some of the tourist areas. And maybe that's the problem down there in cities like Valencia, Alicante and Malaga, that street crime is on the rise. I don't know. Let us know in the comment section if that is the case. And the subject of driving was a fairly hot topic in the comment section yesterday. I opened a can of worms mentioning this topic. Somebody told me that for the sake of diplomatic relations, I should not talk about driving here in Spain. I think one of the comments yesterday mentioned the city of Malaga and just how difficult it is to drive in that city. Something about there being too many roundabouts in Malaga and people have no idea how to drive in roundabouts. A few people said that Malaga was a complicated city to drive in. A few people said that it wasn't. In my opinion, Madrid is the worst city in Spain when it comes to driving, just because of the sheer amount of cars that you get on the roads and the very chaotic road system that we have in the capital city. I personally don't think that the Spanish are bad drivers. I don't think that there are worse drivers here than in other countries that I've seen. In Australia, you also get fairly bad drivers, and I've seen some fairly bad driving in the UK as well. I think that one of the problems here is that the roads and the signs make people bad drivers. I talked about this in a video I did a few years ago, and what I find is that the roads here sometimes can be quite confusing, and very confusing when it comes to signs. Often you don't see a sign here until it's too late, and that means that people scramble to get across, to get off the road if they've seen the sign late. There's a huge problem here with bottlenecks. Quite often you'll find 4 lanes going into 2 or even 1, and that creates quite a complicated situation as nobody wants to give way to other drivers. And one of the worst roads I've seen in Spain is here in Madrid, called the M30. It's a ring road which goes around the center of the city, and this road is complicated because there's too many entrance ramps and there's too many exit ramps, and people are continuously crossing over trying to get on and off the motorway. So I think a lot of the times here it's the road system that turns people into bad drivers. And I also mentioned the other day my experience of having to get a driver's license in this country. A few people said that they have also gone through the same process of having to enroll in a driving school to get your license again. It's one of the problems of coming from a country like Australia or the United States that you can't get your driver's license exchanged here. With some countries outside the European Union, Spain does allow an exchange. For example, Japan, I think you can exchange your license if you come from some South American countries as well, but for Australia you cannot. And the main reason is because in Australia we have 6 or 7 different licenses. Every state has a license, and I think that's also the case in the United States, that every particular state has a different license. So in the case of Australia, my license is from Western Australia. If somebody's from South Australia, they're going to have a South Australian license. Victoria, New South Wales, Queensland, Tasmania, and probably even in the Northern Territory, they have their own license. So that is the main reason why you cannot get your license exchanged here, because the Spanish government would have to have agreements with each individual state, and it's the same for the United States. I read somewhere the other day that British people coming to Spain after 2021 may also have to go through the Spanish driving license process, that people in the UK will no longer be able to easily exchange their license. I think it's going to depend on the negotiations. Maybe the British government will be able to negotiate this aspect. And I think in the UK, correct me if I'm wrong, you also have a common license throughout the country, so that should make negotiations easier. And let's hope that that is the case, because you want to avoid that driving school experience if you can in this country. On that note, I'll start to wrap the video up. Questions and comments, please leave them in the section below. Debate the situation out as you normally do. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. I'll see you in the next one. Hasta luego.